fan of your story approaches you, having read your story multiple times, finding themselves to be wildly inspired by it. You've done a great job, or so they think. They ask you about a particular part in your story. Why did your character only save one of the maidens in that avalanche and you freeze? You don't know why. Why don't you know? Attack on Table.
Attack on table!
Welcome to Attack on Table, where Ryan and I drop any and all illusions that we like each other, and we begin to discuss the finer aspects of the writing craft.
Yeah, and if you guys like the conversations we have on here and you want to support them, just strike the like and subscribe. If you guys would prefer Sean and I remain more professional, we do have interviews where we talk to people other than ourselves. Go check those out on the channel as well.
Absolutely, we generally keep ourselves separated on those for the most part.
By necessity.
By so much necessity. Ryan, what are we talking about today?
I believe we've queued up good and bad character motivations. And just to give a little bit of a preface, this is going to be complete opinion. Sean and I don't have a degree in this, but we do have a dog in the fight. Well, I mean, I guess a good place to start would be to kind of like air out like our own personal thoughts about what makes a good character motivation versus what makes a bad one, I guess.
Yeah, I can throw in, gosh, it was a couple weeks ago when we did the talk about the hero's journey with A. David Barrett. He had made mention of the scale of it not really mattering, to the hero, and that was something I've kind of been chewing on a little bit, like how much it might be the hero's whole world, but it doesn't necessarily, like, whatever motivation is happening doesn't necessarily have to be a gigantic stake for the world itself. Things like love, belonging. I'm thinking only of ones I hate right now.
As is your standard.
Swallow
Our
deep.
standard, really. Yeah, I mean, I guess, for me, I don't think it really matters. I mean, like, having some motivation clearly matters. I think the importance of the motivation is what doesn't really matter, because I mean, you can always explain it, and I feel like if you do a thorough job of explaining your character's motivation, I feel like the audience buys in. I feel like they give you that latitude in many respects. So it's not like, I don't feel like you need to be breaking open psychology books to really get that across.
Well, it kind of comes down to that general, like the general advice with finding your character's motivations is generally three simple questions. It's what do they want, why do they want it, and what happens if they don't achieve it. And that can be a complicated answer, but at least it's a simple question.
Well, I feel like that last one kind of fits more in the realm of like a goal, because I feel like the best motivations in regards to that last question is left more for the audience to kind of fill in the blank instead of being told. I feel like if you're told like what happens if you don't accomplish the task that you've set out, I don't know. I guess it. I don't know. It feels like you don't trust your audience to get it.
I disagree with like trying to separate motivation from a goal. If your character's not trying to achieve anything, then there is no conflict, and then there is no story. What is in Pursuit of Death? What is the goal of your main character?
In my short story, In
Yeah.
Pursuit of Death, man, if I had to boil it down, I think it is. For those of you that don't know, I created a little short story called "In Pursuit of Death." It's so short that I would have to spoil it to really talk about it. So I'll try to do my best in regards to that. I think he unlocks a thing that he didn't know was real, and it was a thing kind of like, like you always in the Bible and stuff, you read stuff about people like encountering God on the road or something like that, and they have like this, they're awashed with this crazy feeling that, like in the sense of Saul, like just changed his life completely. And so that's kind of like what I was going with, is in an avenue of that. And his motivation quickly becomes, how do I get more of that? How do I, and it goes to a very extreme very fast, because it's a twisted story. It's not meant to be like this.
Well, no, but your character's motivation is obsession.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think
But
the
it
obsession
is-
is a result of his motivation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, his motivation being getting another sip of that fine wine. By
Yeah.
any means necessary, and that's what I would have pegged the motivation to be in the story. On the surface level, there can be like a sort of an elevator pitch for character motivation, but there could be the thing like that deep down is like really what they want. And I would advise that you make a character's motivation in a longer story than, a short story per se, or situationally.
Well, I think to
I'm
argue
talking.
against
Nope,
the
you
point
shut
you-
up. I'm not done.
Oh, you. Okay.
Like David in the story I'm working at now, like the whole premise of the story is set out like the motivation, save his little brother. But what is at the real like deep core of that, and what is different about his motivation from their sister, David's motivation all the way deep down is he wants things to go back to normal. And every action he takes is to get back to normality, familiarity. It's what he selfishly wants at his core.
So to take that and mine as an example of what we were kind of bickering about before in regards to like separating goal from motivation, that is a great example, because I feel like the difference being is a motivation is a much more vague thing, and a goal can still be vague, but like a goal is essentially a series of tasks that you're performing in order to achieve a thing. A motivation is just like a background noise of a thing that you desire, right? So like in your instance with David, it's to save his brother. That's his motivation.
Okay.
The goal to do that can change. There's a multitude of ways to get to that route, and in that are several other goals that can be lined up. So I think in my head, that's why I separate the two.
How very often we wind up arguing semantics.
It's opinion. It's all semantics.
I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I just think of the word motivation in the sense of like something must be done, and the goal requires that as well. So I guess maybe we can say that we think the same thing there, but we go by different routes of talking about it, I suppose. Which, what else is new? I hate you. What
Perfect conversation.
what is a motivation that you think is, I don't want to say overused. I don't really care if something is used a lot. I care if it's used well. Like, so what is a motivation that you think is handled poorly for a character? And for the sake of just sticking with your argument, Not a goal, just a motivation. Why
Yeah,
they want what they want.
I think there's a lot of stuff that like writers of all genres and mediums, whether it be novels or movies or TV shows or games or comics, whatever, like all of it. I feel like a lot of them misuse or misinterpret a motivate, like a family related motivation, either like, oh, my family died, or like it stops. They paint it as a motivation for this character to be doing whatever it is they're doing, but really it's just like a kind of a bland background that they've slapped onto a person, and then we are meant to like feel sorry for them in a bid to get some kind of emotional buy-in. But it to me, it's not really motivating.
Okay.
Yeah, like I guess like a good example would be in Star Wars, when like Luke's aunt and uncle are like roasted. That in a different story would be a very good like starting ground for some like rebellion story, and then like you could have more time with the aunt and uncle and put more feeling into that, so that you get the buy-in of like why their death hit them that hard, to the point to where they're like starting some real rebellion. And instead it just feels like a motivation to get the hell off the planet he's on and like go do something. But it's not like a core essence of his character. And I feel like that would work better in a better film than that one.
Well, just a film that had more time. And I feel like a lot of context gets filmed and then lost on the cutting room floor with movies nowadays. And, well, really, for a tale as old as time, really. But in a book, you don't necessarily have that limitation. You just have to worry about whether or not it's serving your story. I agree with you as far as like how it felt like it was a plot device just to get him off the planet, because there wasn't a whole lot of like visceral emotional reaction from Luke, like long standing. You don't hear about them again pretty much for the rest of the trilogy. It was all of a sudden like he's real broken up about Obi-Wan at the end of the movie getting turned into nothing under his robes. And that's almost more like motivating. And that's because the audience has spent more time with Obi-Wan than they did with the aunt and uncle. I can't think of their names.
Which I actually disagree with your contention there. I feel like the way it was handled made it less impactful. It's like if Obi-Wan was cut down and we saw him like laying in two pieces, and then Luke's like, I'm going to kill that man for killing my master, like my educator, my mentor or whatever. But he basically just watched him turn into cloth and disappear. At that point, I would probably go through the galaxies wondering if he's still out there. It's just like, did he actually die? Is that some Jedi trick?
That he thought he was dead, and thank God you're not a Jedi. You'd be
just saying,
really bad at it.
It's just one of those things where it's just like, I feel like it would have been more impactful
if Obi-Wan would have been cleaved in Twix. Wasn't necessary. He was becoming more powerful than Darth Vader could ever believe, and I will die on that hill. But
good pull.
I think that I do think that like the amount of like if a family member gets killed off without you really getting to know them or anything like that, that is a bad character motivation to be like, say, a revenge plot or whatever. Or if you're doing something that your family does just because your family does it, like. And I think that if you're writing a story about a character who's either stuck in or motivated by those types of motivations, you ought to ask yourself, like, why do they do that for a deeper reason? And give them a selfish reason to do that. Like, because when the world's not at stake and there isn't anything beyond yourself that you have to worry about, the things you do are for you. So why does the character feel that need to go after the thing? And I guess you have to sort of link the reader's experience, your audience's experience, with the character, and that's where the hard part's going to be, is making the character care, but then making your audience care as much as the character does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, what you said makes sense. I think people often tend to get a little too in the weeds with their character motivations, and I think they think complexity means uniqueness, and I don't believe motivations necessarily need to be unique. I think by design they shouldn't be, because the idea of a motivation is that we can all understand where they're coming from, or like why it would, like, let's go back to movies real quick. Let's just all admit what happened to John Wick's dog. You know, it hit home for more people than it probably should have. but
Are you saying nobody should care if dogs die, right?
I'm saying you probably shouldn't go through 3 cities as a weapon of mass destruction because your dog died. That's what I'm saying. Maybe 1, and maybe 2 is a bit extreme. 3 is certainly way overdoing it. But like, I think that is a simple premise, and we all like understood it plain enough, and then from that we allowed a lot of nonsense to take place. And I think that speaks to the power of like what a simple motivation can do.
I was not making the argument for motivations to be complicated. I was making the argument for them to be honest, and therefore relatable. And I don't even necessarily, like, at no point in what I'm writing right now do I have David like outright come out and say, I just want things to go back to normal, in so many words, at least not that I'm aware of. But it does motivate the way he thinks sometimes. It shapes the way he thinks. It shapes some of the actions that he makes and the decisions that he makes. And I think that helps me as the author, knowing that, to flesh out his character and make it more believable. So I'm with you. Doesn't have to be complicated. Does need to be present and relatable. I think relatable is probably the most important thing.
Well, also, in the vein of what you're saying, because I don't really view his goal as altruistic, and I think that's good. I think a lot of people kind of bend over backwards to like justify what their characters are doing, and I think that's a mistake. I think based on because we've shared our writings with each other, so like based on like what I've read, what you wrote, and the conversations we've had about your work, I find him to be like, he's just trying to be a big brother in a world that's vastly changing. And as a big brother who's used to a sense of control and order, when things start like spiraling, your natural instinct is to like kind of turtle shell a little bit, like let's kind of rescind to a place of safety where we can like get our heads wrapped around it. And that's not really like a thing, that's not really a privilege that is afforded him in the story you have him written in. And so like in those moments where he's like, let's take a moment, it feels more honest, because I feel like that's what someone who's like trying to, you know, quote unquote, handle the situation would do, even if the situation's like, no, we gotta act now, we gotta move now. And he's just like, well, let's just think about this for a second, you know, because his ultimate goal is to save his brother, but he's got a family member or two along the way, and he's like still trying to be that figure that he's always been. And there's always that, no matter how crazy, or even in your case, like domineering the normal world was, he would prefer that over whatever the hell's happening now.
Well, yeah, the safety and predictability and everything. And just
Yeah.
basically the whole idea of, well, that was none of my business. But now it is his business. Um and I think that I like the idea of hanging the carrot of revenge in front of him just to tempt both him, Elda, Kane, even their mom, like all the characters to some degree, and seeing like who is going to basically give themselves that okay. Also, can, for lack of a better word, complicate the story. I want my story to be slightly complicated, but still believable. Like you can, your character should be more than just one motivation, and they should have to battle against other ones that are against their nature or against their character. So I sort of agree with most of what you said. You were off the mark on a couple of things, but
Are you talking about like in the describing of your character motivation?
yes, but not so far off that I feel the need to correct you. So you never
Well, I think that's
really,
just my interpretation of them, you know.
and you're welcome to it. Uh, you're entitled to your wrong opinion.
Well,
But
and in fairness, it is a work in progress. You're writing, and I just
yeah,
saw one aspect of it.
so
I will say,
slowly.
I the motivation of power seeking, I think, is one that gets mishandled often.
How?
So, to me, there's nothing wrong with it. I think it creates a interesting character that seeks power, and I think far too often what we get is a character that has achieved it, and what it becomes isn't the seeking of power; it becomes like the keeping of power, and that I find a little less interesting than the seeking of it.
I think that the keeping or utilization of power is where a character can get corrupted, or you can lose your audience, that the writing can be mishandled, all manner of things can go wrong. I do think that there is something, like if we were boiling it down to just having power, and I'm thinking very generically here, but I'm thinking about Goku in Dragon Ball Z. He wants as much power as he can get his hands on just to have it, just to stretch himself and see how far he'll go. He doesn't want to do anything with it. He just wants to see if he can achieve it. And I feel like, as annoying as that is at times, because it gets on my nerves, how simple he is. It is simple and innocent. You would never see him reach a level where he's like, and now I don't need any of you anymore. And
Or it's because I think his goal is to seek power, but I don't think his motivation is to seek power. And that's where I would turn
I
those
think
to,
his
is 'cause I think
motivation
his
is absolutely to see how strong he can get. He's not. If there isn't a threat directly in front of him, he still looks to get stronger. At no point does he relax.
But I don't think it's to seek power. I think it's to test his limits.
Well, that is, again,
and then to see if he can break
me looking at the very baseline of just being powerful. Now, if somebody's looking for power in the sense of like political influence, for example, why? What do you need it for? You can't be a Goku of a politician. What are you going to do with that power?
What if you could? That would be great. I think that'd be an interesting story. Just I want to amass as much political influence and power as I can, simply
You'd
to
be
see
Tom
what it will do.
Bombadil, and the power would be the ring, though, because like Goku would just be like, they were like, "Hey, you're king of everything," and be like, "Cool, no thanks."
Yeah.
Like, just
It's
wanted to
like,
see
well,
if I
that
could
was a
do it.
fun journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun journey.
I'm gonna go see if I
Give it back.
become emperor of everything-er. And yeah,
So
so
make new things to become emperor of.
yeah, so like outside of just my surface level of definition of power, what do you think makes a good pursuit of power motivation in
A good
Ryan's
seeking
mind?
of power. Well, so I mean, a good seeking of power motivation doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily need a good end result. It can be a bad end result, but just having a motivation of seeking power can make a character interesting more on its utilization, the way the character him or herself sees that power, what it means to them to
Okay.
achieve it. That stuff is what I think is more compelling versus like just the simple need to achieve it, but like why, in what aspect does it fulfill for them to be achieving, to be seeking it?
Yeah.
And in that you can have all these little minor man, there was a story I read where essentially I can't remember the story, so I think it was a comic book. Essentially this character is seeking like the end all be all of all power, like they're just trying to make themselves all powerful.
Okay.
And a good starter of why that started was essentially they got hurt, not physically but like emotionally hurt, and it wrecked them so much so that they just never wanted to feel pain, and they never wanted to inflict pain, but they wanted to become so powerful that that was no longer a concern.
Sounds like
And
Virgil, Dante's brother in Devil May Cry. I mean,
yeah,
in the games, that is his only motivation. Get so strong that you cannot
Nothing
be
can hurt
harmed
him.
anymore.
Yeah.
Once was
And
enough.
I think that is that comes from a pure place. And in that, your story can turn a lot of different ways. The person can be good, they can be bad, it can turn south.
Yeah.
They can just be like a Saitama where they're just grocery shopping because they're just like, well, my life is fulfilled. I have achieved my goal.
Feel about that. You lost me.
I'm just walking through the world as the strongest person alive, and now I'm bored.
Yeah. Well, and I'll give One Punch Man credit for exploring the boredom that would come with being at the tippy top with no close second. But to go back to what you said about how that is like a pure thing, that is like a nice way to put it with the whole like in Virgil's scenario and why I feel that he feels that need to have power, but he does a lot of impure things to achieve that safe feeling, I guess you would say, if I'm going to be a psychologist about it. Do you have that pipe? Can you hand it to me?
Yeah, right here.
Thanks.
Take it. I think that kind of lends into the evil for evil's sake as well, where it's just like, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not in the camp where villains need to be explained or explored. I appreciate it when someone takes the time to do that and then they do it well, but I do not require it. Maybe that's from my D&D days.
I'm not against evil for evil's sake. I feel like as long as you're not being like, well, this guy was just born bad. And, like, somebody just wonder what you were born kind of crap. And, like, yeah. And I'm fine with that motivation. I do feel like they're should be a why. Even if it is that, they got hit on their head and were made as evil, as can be because of, where their brain hemorrhaged at or whatever when they were a kid. If the member of the species that they are just makes you want to be like hurt other people, if you're just aggressive and conquesty by nature, that's fine. It doesn't have to be they would have been good but kind of thing. I don't need that, but nothing happens without a reason.
I think the reason why evil for evil's sake doesn't bother me is because it's really a matter of perspective in a lot of aspects. Since we've been talking a lot about anime, one that has this conversation that I really enjoy is called Overlord, where essentially it's, this guy has come and sat down with the king, and this Overlord is an undead being who has unspeakable power, and he's in charge. Like, his legion is undead, vampires, skeletons, death knights, and all this stuff. And his goal in life is just to make his people happy. And the point he makes is like, it's just like, is it bad that I just want to make my people happy, but the thing that makes them happy is your death and misery? I can't rob them of their joy and happiness just because you don't agree with its end result.
Right. Well, then you get to have a fun conversation about perspective and point of view on good and bad and everything like that. It's a problematic thing to want to be happy. You need a nation of counselors from your nation of armies. I don't know. I'm just saying, don't kill people to make yourself happy. It makes you bad.
Can we take it from murder to maybe some light BDSM? Can we stop there?
Yeah,
instead of death and torture.
Make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just the vein I fall in. It's just evil for evil's sake is a matter of perspective. It's also not bad, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I don't even want to make the argument against you that it needs to be explained in the story, but the author should know why they're.
Yeah, because that'll influence the way you write things. Yeah, I agree with that.
But the story itself may not inherently call for an explanation, and in which case, that's fine. Just if you're going to get asked, though, in an interview on Fitz of Writing, why your character did that bad thing, be ready to answer.
Yeah, have answers like this and be ready to debate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll put the brakes to you. Oh, no, we don't ask questions that are that difficult, sorry. But we will someday, if you subscribe.
Yeah, we'll get into hard questions.
What do you got any other, character motivations that are fairly common that you think need to be handled with some extra care? I
can tell you ones I'm tired of.
Well, that's just your perspective and personal opinion. It's evil for evil's sake, because I don't really care to know your motivation for being tired of them.
That's my evil for evil's sake. It's the things I'm tired of love motivations. Like
Mario saving Princess Peach, or what do you mean?
All of it. It feels very surface level of a thing. And I know we've kind of gone through this conversation, be well, it doesn't need to be that complicated, but it's just I feel like it's so vague, it's so surface level that it becomes a cheap way to write. It's just well, he loved her, or she loved him, or they love each other, or whatever, and it's just okay,
you've never seen a love this great.
Yeah,
you've definitely never experienced it, reader. Weep.
I thought you were talking to me for a second there. You've never experienced love, Ryan. How could you know what depths it can sink to.
Fuck, Ryan,
Yeah.
you've experienced that level of love every time you look in the mirror.
Though I will say, there's I keep seeing these clips of this movie that I really want to watch. It's called Obsession, and that is about like, hey, let's see how crazy like the motivation of love can take someone. And that was interesting. I actually want to watch that. I think I'm going to watch that tonight.
Why do they love the person so much in order for the events of your story to happen? And in a romance novel, sure, maybe that's enough. But like in a fantasy setting or a horror movie or a horror novel or anything like that, like there should be other things going on, I guess. There should be things complicating that.
Yeah, I think love as a motivation probably should be more of background noise to like further more current motivations. I think a good example of that is like Princess Bride. I think they did a nice little love motivation thing in there where it kind of got turned on its head a little bit and then kind of went back to being like the classic fantasy romance where essentially this guy loves this woman so much that he's willing to give her everything, but he's not enough, and so she leaves. And in that, he felt like heartbreak and like went on his own personal journey that you don't get to like be a part of, but you see the end result when he comes back as the Dread Pirate Roberts, and then all those feelings get kicked up again, and and it's I think it's
Doesn't sound like
a great way to
Jason.
I would agree with you, but I think it was a interesting way to have like that slight motivation of like, I love this person, I'll do anything for them, and then they leave, and from that unrequited love, like he's turned himself into a different person, and like he had these different motivations in life that took him other places. And then when she got abducted, and he's just like, well, I'll go save her, I'll maybe get the ransom or something, thinking that that's like he's done with her. But he spends like an afternoon with her, and he's just like, God, I still love this woman. She's crazy, and I hate her, and I love her all the same. And then it becomes like deeper as he goes, and it falls back into that like where he was initially kind of thing. And I prefer that over. Well, it's also a book, Sean. I prefer that I prefer that story over just like those more quickly told ones, and then the love motivation is just kind of like it's always at the top of the surface, and it's just always there. I prefer a little bit more in the background, I think.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm with you there.
I think we've talked a lot about the ones we hate.
Yes, and we're going to be... Well, I don't think we talked only about ones that we hate, but I definitely think that that's good enough for now. We can come back to this later. I feel like there is a long list of, I guess you would say, categories of character motivations and everything that we could kind of break down and go through, but that's enough for tonight.
And just as a reminder to you guys, we don't have one this episode, but maybe we'll have another one. You can see what those are like. If not, you can always check out the old AOTs where we have some. We do have another segment called Dear Duncan. You guys have some questions. You're looking for some answers. Maybe we can help. Maybe we can't. But shoot them to us. We have a form down in the description of all of our videos. Just post your question there. If it's super urgent, we'll try to get to it as soon as possible. But
did we say anything? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
Well, if we said anything that offended you, tell us in the comments. If we said anything you agree with, tell us in the comments. If you have a list of your own of character motivations you'd like for us to discuss, put it in the comments. And
we would definitely like to do this another time. So if you guys really disagree with us, let us know. We'll bring those up in the next video.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Please like, subscribe.
Or subscribe.
Thank you for the long wait there. It felt awful. All right, Ryan, how do we end these?
Intentionally.